Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us today. In just a few minutes, we will get started with the webinar, but first I wanted to cover some housekeeping items for today's webinar. Everyone has been muted. If you have questions, please ask them in the questions window of GoToWebinar. We will try to get to every question either individually or aloud during the Q&A session at the end. Once the presentation begins, sometimes people have issues seeing the slides advance. If that happens to you, just close the webinar and then rejoin. That usually fixes things. We are also recording today's session and it'll be available to share with you after the webinar. It usually takes a week for us to post it to YouTube. And with that, we're ready to get started with today's session. Joining us today is Julio Fernandez. Over to you, Julio.
Thanks, Amber. Hello, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us today for this Lightning Platform Orientation webinar. We're all connected these days, aren't we? So these are all the channels you can follow Salesforce devs, and you can be up to date with all things Salesforce devs, and you will find lots of useful information and interesting new features there. Feel free to leave any comments or questions there. And as Amber said, this webinar is being recorded, and you will be sent the recording when it's ready in the coming days. So let me introduce myself. My name is Julio Fernandez, and I am an applications developer at Designit, and I've been working with the platform with Salesforce for about 6 years now. And I am the leader of the Sevilla developer user group. Designit is a small consultancy of about 15 people, and we are Salesforce partners, and we are based in Bristol in the UK, although I am based in Seville in Spain, and I work remotely. These are the wonders of working in the cloud. Here you can find my email address and my Twitter handle, so you can contact me by any of those channels if you have any questions. So let's see what we're going to be talking about today. This is a Lightning Platform Orientation webinar. So we're going to start defining what the Lightning Platform is. Then we're going to see the data modeling tools provided by Salesforce, and we'll be doing some point-and-click customizations in the app we're going to develop using no-code logic. Followed by some Apex code customization, which is code customization. We'll then create a custom Lightning component that makes use of the Apex code we've created. And finally, we'll be using the Lightning app builder to enable us to show the Lightning component in one of our pages. Last but not least, we'll have an overview of the Salesforce APIs, and we'll be closing with some questions and answers if you have any. If you'd like to do more Salesforce training, go to Trailhead for nice and fun tutorials that will help you learn loads. You can follow any of these two links here to know more. So, what is the Lightning Platform? To answer that question, we can have a look at a related question, which is, where do you want to spend your time? Working with legacy platforms or with on-premise systems, most of the time, our precious time is spent on setting up the underlying infrastructure. We need to set up a lot of config files, reboot servers, and all of those time-consuming tasks. And that leaves us with most of our time taken by the infrastructure setup rather than building our apps. With the Lightning Platform, we can do everything by using just a browser. So we have all the functionality available for us from a simple browser, without having to worry about infrastructure and security, etc. Because all of that is handled by Salesforce and the Lightning Platform. And that way, this makes it much easier and faster for us to develop applications on the Lightning Platform, because that's the main thing we have to focus on. The rest is all taken care of for you. the number one trusted enterprise platform. At Salesforce, the number one corporate value is trust. There's over 5.5 million apps built on the Salesforce platform, so therefore trust is more important than ever. Part of the power of building on Salesforce is that you are provided with trusted services, so you can focus on building your apps. Every app that is built on Salesforce comes with infrastructure services, network services, and application services, all tested and all secured for you. It's all standard. It's all out of the box. You can go to trust.salesforce.com anytime to see transparent information about the real-time performance and the availability of your Salesforce instance. So you will see all of the instances, and you will see real-time which one has issues and which ones don't. Every new release of Salesforce gets run through over 100 million tests, and trust is built into every layer of the application development. So you don't have to worry about that. Salesforce does it for you. So the Lightning platform then is a secure multi-tenant platform that lets you quickly customize Salesforce CRM applications. And on top of that, it makes it easy for you to build your own enterprise applications for every department in your company, be it marketing, HR, etc. With the Lightning platform and the tools that come with it, you can jump right into developing customized applications for your business users. So let's see how it gets started. The first thing we're going to see is the data model in Salesforce. Salesforce provides a bunch of standard objects that are shipped with it by default. And you can always extend the functionality of the standard objects by creating new fields. And the CRM functionality of Salesforce is built around standard objects. So you have accounts, leads, contacts, amongst others. And those are data structures that are provided by Salesforce out of the box. But on top of that, you can build your own data model in order to shape your custom apps. You can create your new data structures by means of Salesforce custom objects, and you can add fields to those objects and create relationships between those data structures. So let's have a look at it, and let's switch to Salesforce. Today I'm going to be using a developer org, which is a free instance of Salesforce, and it has all the functionality provided for you to try every aspect of the platform. I love the fact that Salesforce makes it so easy for you to learn. You just have to go to developer.salesforce.com and get your own developer org for free. And it's for free. You don't have to. It's not a trial that expires after 30 days. It is there for you, and you can try all of the aspects of Salesforce. So, as I mentioned, this is a view of the sales app within Salesforce. This is a standard app, and you have accounts. You can have you can see all of the accounts and all of the contacts within it, and all of these records, all of these objects and fields here are standard objects, and this is all populated for you when you sign up for your developer org. But the main thing we're going to be focusing on today is a park manager app. So just to keep on track with the Trailhead theme, we're going to develop a park manager app that is going to help us manage the 2 parks we have. So by means of the data model, so our data model is going to be based on 2 main objects. The first one is going to be parks, and within the parks we have different fields to tell you the size of it, who is the lead manager, whether it's a protected reserve or not. And then we also have animals. And as you can see, we have very specific animals in our parks. And again, we need to model what we need to know about them. So we need to know the name, whether they're endangered, and we're also going to save an image of the animal. So Salesforce has a couple of ways of seeing your objects. One of them is the schema builder. So in the schema builder, you can see all of the fields within a custom object, or even a standard object as the contact. The contact is here, and it's a standard object. So we can see that the park has different fields. So it's got number fields, it's got lookups, it's got text area fields, it's got a geolocation. And the lookup is a very interesting type of field because it lets you relate different objects. So for example, for a park, we marked the lead ranger as a lookup to the contact because we need a contact to be the manager of the park. But because it's a lookup, the relationship we are introducing between the park and the contact is not, it's kind of a loose relationship. So as you can see in the parks, one of them doesn't have a lead ranger, so it is not required. And if we take the animal object, on the other hand, we have related it to the animal sighting. And the animal sighting has a master detail relationship from the animal to the animal sighting. That means that you cannot see an animal with, you cannot have an animal sighting record without an animal. So this is a required relationship. You can't create an animal sighting record without an animal. So that is the other very important type of relationship. So what we're going to do next is we're going to give a park and create a many-to-many relationships between parks and animals, because when we see an animal, we could have seen it in Dream Park, but then 2 weeks later we could have seen it in the Apex National Park. So we need to have the ability to have a many-to-many relationship, and that is created by means of a junction object. So what we're going to do now is we're going to transform the animal sighting into a junction object by creating another master detail relationship to the park, and that is going to give us the many-to-many relationship. So let's do that by going to the setup menu and just diving into the animal sighting object. This is the other interface that Salesforce provides for you to manipulate objects. And we're going to create a new field here. And that field is going to be a master detail relationship. This is going to be related to the park. And the child relationship is animal sightings from the park. And this is an important thing when you're building your object and the fields within your object. As we mentioned earlier, security is very important, and this is one of the aspects of the security that you can take advantage of. So Salesforce have different user profiles, and when you create a field in an object, you can select if it's visible or not for the different profiles. This is adding the field to the page layout so that the field is shown in the animal sighting page. And the last one is adding the related list to the park so that when we have an animal sighting in a park, we can see the list of animals that have been seen in the park. So if we now refresh our schema builder view, we'll see that there is another master detail relationship from park to animal sighting. So let's have a look at what that looks like in our app, and let's just see an animal, and let's just create. So let's say that we've got a centaur here, and if we go to the related list, we have the animal sightings, and we're going to create a new animal sighting, and the centaur is populated by default because that's the record we're working with, and we just need to select the park. So let's say that we just saw a centaur in the Apex National Park, and we're going to save it. So we have the animal sighting record here, and if we go back to the parks and select the Apex National Park, we can see that the animal sighting is also shown here. So for example, now we can only see a reference to the animal sighting. There's not much information. One thing we can do there is just go to the park page layout, and we can decide what fields from the animal sighting we want to see. So we do that by going down to the related list and adding, for example, the name of the animal and whether it's an endangered animal or not. Once we do that, if we refresh our view of the park, we go to the related list, and we can see some more information about the animal sighting. Okay, so I guess that's all from the data modeling point of view. What we're going to do now next is to add some custom logic. One of the things that makes the platform help you speed up the way you develop apps is by its diverse toolset. The Lightning platform provides a wide range of tools for you to customize it. We have some declarative tools, some programmatic tools. Another way of saying this could be we have no-code tools, low-code tools, and we also have coding tools that we can use to customize. For example, you can take advantage of the declarative tools and create custom logic with minimal code or with no code at all. You just use drag and drop or point and click, and that's it. So we have tools like the validation rules, the workflow rules, or the process builder, and we'll be focusing on the process builder today. And on the other hand, for more complex operations, you can always add some programmatic logic with the development tools provided by Salesforce. These are tools like object-oriented languages like Apex, client-side frameworks, or the APIs. The process builder is an intuitive and user-friendly tool that lets you build your own business logic. When something happens in a record, a process is immediately fired to perform certain actions automatically for you. The Lightning platform provides you with the ability to build a flow of actions based on data changes. So let's have a look at what we can do. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add some automation so that whenever an endangered animal is seen in a park, the park is automatically marked as a protected animal preserve. So again, in order to do that, we go back to the setup menu. You don't need to know all of the menus on the left-hand side. You can just type for what you're looking for in the search area, and that filters the items for you. So this is the process builder. Let's call it mark or endangered animal scene. Now let's call it mark park as endangered. And this is going to fire when a record changes. This is the user-friendly UI that the Lightning platform provides for us to develop a process. It's just a flow of actions that you can easily configure. So let's choose where this is going to happen. This is going to happen every time an animal is seen. So this is going to happen when an animal sighting is created or edited. So that's the entry criteria, and that's what's going to trigger the action, the process. And the entry criteria is going to be that an animal is endangered. So the condition is we need to traverse to the animal and just select the endangered field, which is a Boolean. So every time an animal is endangered, we want to perform the immediate actions. So when the endangered checkbox is true, we will be doing the actions on the right. So we can save that, and we can now add the immediate actions that are going to happen. With the process builder, you can do a number of different actions. So you can invoke an Apex class, you can create different records, you can send email alerts or post to Chatter. But what we're going to do now is update records. And the record is, the action is going to be mark park as protected preserve. And the update we can perform could be in the actual record that triggered the process or in a related record. And we want the second case because we want this to be applied to the park and we want to modify a field in the park. So the one we need to mark is protected animal preserve, and it's got to have a value of true. So now we've built our process builder. So every time an animal sighting is created or edited, if that animal is endangered, this action is going to happen, and the action is we're going to mark the related park as protected preserve. Let's activate this, and let's see how it works by going to one of our animals, for example, a unicorn, and just creating an animal sighting, because a unicorn is an endangered animal. So this one should fire the process and the related park, which is Dream Park, because we've just seen the unicorn at Dream Park. That is going to mark the park as endangered. And as you can see, the checkbox has now been ticked for Dream Park. Let's just prove that when we see an animal that is not endangered, the park is not marked as endangered. So let's just introduce a new animal sighting for a dragon. And this dragon has been seen in the Apex National Park. And when we save this and we go back to the parks, we can see that the Apex National Park has not been marked as a protected animal reserve because the animal wasn't endangered. So that was our process builder. That was our declarative customization. Let's talk about Apex now. This is the flip side to the declarative tools. Whereas the process builder is drag and drop and filling in forms and configuring stuff, Apex is writing code. For those of you who have a development background in C or Java, you will find Apex development really easy to pick. Everything in Apex should be very familiar to you. Apex is primarily based in Java, but with a few differences, because it is specifically designed to work with the Lightning platform and Salesforce records and objects. It has special tools for creating, compiling, and even debugging code on the platform. So let's carry on and let's move on to manipulating some records in Apex and build some Apex code. This is the developer console. You can always open the developer console if you're an admin, if you have the rights from your Salesforce app, and just by going to developer console. And this is the workspace where you will build your Apex classes or your Lightning components. And it's got a few tabs at the bottom where you can see the logs of your executions, the results of the tests that you've run on your classes, or you can even build just run your queries. The developer console has a couple, two different ways of writing code. One of them is scripting code, and the other one is just building your classes and your files. The scripting code is usually very useful when you need to test things or when you need to run a one-off execution. You open it by going to debug and anonymous Apex. So here is a snippet of code, and what we're doing here is we're just invoking the system.debug method, and this is just to print hello world in the debug logs. Then I'm doing a simple query where I'm retrieving all the animals, and then for each of the animals I'm printing the name again. This is printed to the debug log. And finally, I'm saying goodbye world. So if I run this piece of code and I go back to the logs and I open the execute anonymous, this is what we've just run. So you have a lot of details of the execution that you've just run, but there is a lot of things going on here. So we can see here all of the animals being returned by the query, and then we can see them looping over. And if we want to focus and just see what we printed out, we just do debug only, and we can only see what we printed ourselves. So we can see hello world, and we can see all of our animals, and we can see goodbye world. So that was the scripting side of it. And if we now want to create our own Apex class, we just do it by file new Apex class. You just have to give it a name. We're going to call it parking animal sighting controller, and this is a normal class from an object-oriented programming point of view. Most of you who have done development will identify this. So it's got the keywords like class and public, and it's got a name for the class. So I've got a snippet of code here, so I don't have any typos. And I'm going to just copy and paste. And let's see what this class is going to do. So this class is going to find animal images based on the park ID, because we created the relationship between the park and the animals by the animal sighting. we can just create a query that returns animal data from the animal sighting. So the parameter we pass to this method is park ID, and the park ID is going to be used in the where clause of the query. If you can see, we're accessing animal specific data right from the animal sighting object. That's because of the way in which SQL queries are constructed and the features that SQL queries provide. SQL is Salesforce object query language, and the underscore C at the end of the fields and the objects means that this is a custom object and a custom field. And then when it's an R instead of a C, that means that you're going to access data from the related field, from the related objects. Sorry. So that way we can access animal data like the name and the image link from the animal sighting by means of the park ID. And finally, what we're going to do is we're going to build a list of animals with their names and the image link, and that's going to be returned. Another specific thing about this method is that is using an annotation. The add or enabled keywords, that is an annotation. And what this is doing is exposing this method, this Apex method, to the Lightning platform. So our Lightning components will be able to access this method because it is annotated with or enabled. But we can see that there are some problems because I tried to save this class and it's not correct. And let's see what it is. So you can see that while saving, the developer console is compiling and it's telling you that something's wrong. So there's an invalid type, animal fighting. Oh, that's because it's not an animal fighting, it's because it's an animal sighting. Let me see. Yeah, so that's all sorted now, and we have been able to save our class now, and let's carry on. We have our Apex class with a method that is returning a list of animals for a park with the animal image information. That's what we've just done. That is what our Apex class is doing. So let's now see what we can do with that to help us build our user interface in a couple of extra steps. Let's introduce the Lightning Component Framework. The Lightning Component Framework is a modern framework for developing visual components that can be used and reused in pages within the Lightning platform. A Lightning component is a bundle of multiple files that make use of Apex on the server side, the backend, and JavaScript on the client side, the browser. So let's do that. That's what we're going to do. We're going to create a Lightning component that is going to display the images of the animals that have been seen in the park by putting this Lightning component in the park page. So back onto the developer console, let's create a new Lightning component, and this Lightning component is going to be called park animal sightings. And when you create your Lightning bundle, you're offered a few options, and we're going to mark this as a Lightning record page because that is what we're going to do. What we want to do is we want to build something in this record page because this is showing the Dream Park, so this is a record, and we want to add a component on the right-hand side to display the animals that are related so that we don't have to go back to the related tab. So that's why we mark this as a record page, because this component is going to be placed in a page that has a record. So when we create this, the first thing we are prompted with is the component part of it, the component, and we can see on the right-hand side a number of different files which make the bundle of our lighting component. So the component part of it is some XML and HTML that build the user interface, and the controller is the part where we add our JavaScript in order to interact with the HTML and also to invoke actions in the backend. And then there are other files like style, where you can just manipulate the CSS and documentation and re-render that we won't get into details today. So again, let me just copy and paste my code, and let me just describe what we've done here. So this component is implementing the force has record ID interface. This is what is going to allow us to get the information from the record that we are seeing. So in conjunction with the forced record data, which is the Lightning Data Service, this is going to let us load the information from the database without having to do any Apex code. So we get the record ID because we are implementing the has record ID interface, and because we are in a record page. So with that record ID, the Lightning Data Service is going to retrieve the information we need. In this case, we're going to retrieve the ID and the name of the park, and we're going to store that information in the park attribute. We have two attributes. One of them is the park, and the other one is the animals, which is a list. And the animals is what we're going to retrieve from our Apex class. Then finally, we have a handler, which is init, and that is invoking a method in the controller, in the JavaScript controller of the component. This is like a constructor in an Apex class. So when the component is initialized, this is the first actions it takes. And then finally, the last piece of this Lightning component is the user interface. So this is declaring a H2 tag, and then it's looping through the list of animals, and it's going to display an image with the different links for each of the animals. So let's have a look at how we can get the information from our Apex controller into our Lightning component. So we said that the init is going to invoke the doInit controller method, and what that is going to do is going to perform a call to the backend. These calls are asynchronous actions, so we have to configure it and then set a callback so that when we have a response back from the server, we act depending on the results we get. So the action is defined by calling the find animal images method. If you see, that's the method that we have in our controller class. Sorry, I forgot to mention that we are implementing the the controller for this component is the park animal sighting controller. This is so that we can call the methods in that Apex class. So our action is going to be the method in our Apex class, and the parameter is going to be passed with the record ID, and the record ID is taken from the component, which is passed because we are using this component in a record page. The callback function, once we get the response from our Apex class, we're going to set the list of animals that was returned by the Apex code into the animals list variable in our component. So that's our both parts. We have all the code parts that we need to show our list that we need in order to show our list of animals in the parks, and we want to see the images. So let's see how we can get our lighting component within our park page. We're going to do that by means of the Lightning App Builder. The Lightning App Builder is a WYSIWYG layout editor. That is, what you see is what you get. We're going to do it by drag and drop of the Lightning component we just created into the Power page, but this is more difficult to explain than to demo, so let's just do it and show it. So again, we're going to do some configuration, and because we want to show the Lightning component in this page, let's edit this page straight away, because the Lightning platform lets you do it right from the page if you have the right permissions. So when we edit the page, the Lightning App Builder is opened, and this is the interface. As we said, it's a WYSIWYG, so what you see is what you get, because it is rendering and giving you all the details of the Dream Park as you see them. If we focus on the left-hand side items, we can see that there are 22 standard components, so we could just drag and drop some items there and just add it to our page. But this is not what we are supposed to be doing, so let's just get rid of that and let's just add our park animal sightings. And there it is, our beautiful unicorn is there. It's a WYSIWYG and it's rendered as you configure it, so you can see everything. You can have a preview of what you will see when this is saved. So if we save this and we go back to our page, we can see that the Lightning component is showing the animals. And let's see what is in the Apex National Park. So the Apex National Park is showing just one because that link is broken. But let's just add a unicorn as well in the Apex National Park, just so we can see more than one animals. Apex National Park. We now go back to the park. We can see well, there are 3 animals, but the link to the first one is broken. Sorry about that. So that was the Lightning App Builder. We now have our full app. It is showing the animals in the parks. And let's see other things that we can do with the Lightning platform. The Lightning platform includes a number of tools to extend the platform and integrate with it. You can use the Salesforce APIs for general integration, like the data API that's exposed through a REST or a SOAP interface, and it allows you to update records, create or delete them. There are other specific APIs like the tooling API or the metadata API that you can use to modify the structure of your org, and you can do things like creating fields or in an object and so forth. But not only can you use the Salesforce provided APIs, but you can also call external APIs from the Lightning platform, and you can even create, you can even expose your customers' APIs using Apex code. We also have the platform events that use a messaging bus to propagate data in a massive scale, and you can do IoT-based visualizations with platform events. For example, we could tag all the unicorns in your park and then track their locations in a map. And then there's also the mobile SDK. But before just talking about it, you need to know that all the development you do in the Lightning platform and the Lightning app builder, all the pages that you see there are visible and usable within the Salesforce application for Android or iOS. It will all be responsive. But now, if you want to do a custom application and you want to write it for Android or iOS, or make it a hybrid application, then you can make use of the mobile SDKs provided to you to help you with authentication and accessing your Salesforce org. But there's more. There's more to the Lightning platform than what we've mentioned so far. If you want to build your own application using a different language, like Java, Ruby, Node, if you're more familiar with any of those languages, you can always write that application and run it on Heroku. Heroku is part of the Lightning platform, and it has the ability to run applications built with any of the other languages that you are familiar with. That's why it's a polyglot platform. Then you can write your own Node application, have it running in Heroku, and get it to communicate with Salesforce and share data back and forth using the Salesforce Data API or with Heroku Connect. Heroku Connect is a service that allows you to mirror data between your Salesforce org and a Heroku Postgres database. And this is very useful when you need to perform quite heavy transactions or massive processing that the regular Salesforce APIs may not support. So where do we go from here? We've now seen the main features of the Lightning platform and some of the things you can do with it, but you probably want to know more. And if that's the case, then you can take a look at the Dreamhouse application, which is a reference application that's been built for you with examples of no code, low code, and code customizations. This application represents a fictional real estate office that sells houses. And so you have all the house features in the app, like the size of the house or the number of rooms, etc. And there is even an integration with Slack, so you are notified when a new house is available in the market. So just go ahead and play with the Dreamhouse app because it's a really good application for you to explore additional possibilities of the Lightning platform. So beyond the Dreamhouse app, we also have the App Exchange. Just like Android has its Google Play Store and iOS has its App Store, Salesforce has its own library of apps and components that may be useful for you. The App Exchange holds a range of items from custom Lightning components to full applications. They can be free to use, or they may be available under some licensing. But this is a good registry of additional functionality that you probably need and someone else has already done it. And if they've done it and they've uploaded it to the App Exchange, then you can add it to your own org, just like you install new applications on your phone. One thing which is very important to mention is that all the applications that go in the App Exchange have to pass a thorough security review. So you can rest assured that anything in there is safe for you to install in your org. The community. This is another side of the Salesforce platform that is very interesting. It's one of the greatest aspects of Salesforce and the Lightning platform. We have the Trailblazer community at success.salesforce.com, where you can find other people that work in the same things you do, and you can talk and interact with them, ask questions, or even answer questions that other people may have. You can also learn about community events that are organized and when they're going to happen and much more. There's also the Salesforce Developer Forums, which is a traditional forum where you can ask questions, post some code snippets, and get answers from other users. And finally, we have the salesforce.stackexchange.com, which is a community-driven Stack Exchange site, very similar to any others like Stack Exchange you may have used. So you find more specific questions with very specific answers that are voted up or down by the community to help us find out whether that solution is good or not for the problem being exposed. And you can solve your problems quicker. And finally, again, I would like to strongly recommend you visit Trailhead. As I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, Trailhead is the fun way to learn Salesforce. It has a lot of challenges that you can take, and you can earn badges when you complete your challenges to show that you've learned specific skills within the Lightning platform. Just go to trailhead.salesforce.com and start playing with it. You will find different modules and projects you can learn, and you can learn a lot of different aspects of Salesforce. There's also trail mixes, which are bundles of modules you can do to learn a group of related skills. For example, if you go to bit.ly/welcome-devs, you will find a welcome devs trail mix that will bring you up to speed with Salesforce development and the things we've talked about today. These trail mixes are usually bundled up to last about 4 hours, so it's easy for you to follow them. And with that, I would just like to say thank you all for joining us today. And let's see if we have any questions here.
Yes, thank you, Julio, for a great presentation. We have time for a couple questions. Our first question is, does Salesforce support integration with external data models? An example is SQL via JDBC.
Integration, that's not an integration I've been familiar with using the Salesforce platform itself, the Lightning platform itself, but you can definitely use kind of middleware integrations. So you can use tools like MuleSoft to integrate with JDBC, with external databases, and then integrate back to Salesforce through the Salesforce APIs. And there's also Lightning External Objects, which is a definition of so it's a connection that you can build between Salesforce and external data sources, and they have to implement the OAuth 2 protocol in order for you to be able to connect to them. But there's no specific direct way of just accessing external data from just Salesforce. You would have to configure it.
Great. Well, thank you, Julio. We have another question. They are asking, when do you choose to develop an automation and process builder, and when would you choose to do this in Apex code? Is this a personal preference?
Well, there are things you can't do with Process Builder, like, for example, acting when something is removed. So if you remove a record, then you can't have an action triggered by that event. And in that case, you would have to write an Apex trigger. An Apex trigger, if we go to the developer console, it's a class that you create, and you can declare it on an account, for example, and you can do actions before inserting, and in this case, it would be before deleting or after deleting. So there are certain types of actions that you can't do with Process Builder, and more complex automation, like, I don't know, just checking data that it's related in multiple, so 3 or 4 levels away from your main object. So those type of things you can't do in Process Builder, and then you have to do them in Apex.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Julio, for presenting today. It was a great presentation, and thank you everyone on the line for joining us today. This concludes today's webinar. If we did not get to your specific question, we recommend that you reach out to us on the forum. Everyone, enjoy your day, and thank you so much again. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.